From there, let's go to Haiti. Haiti is making headlines this weekend for two reasons. An Olympic team of just two has gone viral after taking part in the Winter Games opening ceremony at Milan last night, or I should say their outfits went viral, which were based on the painting of one of the country's revolutionary leaders, Toussaint Louverture, on horseback. The figure of Toussaint was banned by the Olympic body, forbidding political ideology, but the horse remained. Take a look at this. This was a painting by the Miami-based Haitian artist Edouard Duval-Carré. You can see, I hope we can see, the image. But if you can't, basically this was the image themselves of what they turned it into. So these are the outfits, one of the most stunning of the Olympics so far. For both of them, you'll see the horse right at the bottom. Let's see if we can show you the original artist image. So this is where it's from. And that's what they turned it into. Well, the Haitian-Italian designer Stella Jean has said, quote, "Despite the depleted resources, environmental degradation and prolonged instability, Haiti has still something to offer the world. And one thing Haiti can always export is our art, our culture and our creativity." Well, the other Haitian story making headlines is the significance of today's date, February the 7th, an historic day of flashpoints in Haitian history. It was 1986. On this day, a popular uprising forcing the last authoritarian ruler of the Duvalier dynasty to flee in exile here in France. 1991, Jean-Bertrand Aristide was inaugurated as Haiti's first democratically elected president, later overthrown in a coup. And February the 7th, 2021, the day opponents of the polarising President Jovenel Moïse said he should have stepped down to end his 5-year term. He continued and was later assassinated, shot 12 times in his bedroom in the capital, Port-au-Prince, reportedly on the orders of the Haitian and Colombian elites involved in drug shipment routes. 4 years on from that, with a political vacuum filled by armed criminal gangs that spread across the capital and who now control more than 80% of it, humanitarian groups are warning of a huge rise in violence, kidnaps, killings and the effective immunity for rape of women. All this despite ongoing efforts by a multinational police force having been deployed to try to help local officers. The 7th of February, critically important today, because it's the end of the term for the Transitional Presidential Council, the TPC, an unelected group attempting to fill the vacuum and bring about order. Well, tonight, I'm joined by the investigative award-winning reporter, Ingrid Arnesen, whose reporting has focused heavily on Latin America and the Caribbean. She's covered Haiti for more than 2 decades. Evening, Ingrid. Great to speak to you tonight. Thank you for coming on the programme. First of all, tell us about the TPC, this Transitional Council, why it's expiring today and why this date is so key to what happens next.
Well, there's 2 things that happened. As you mentioned, it was the end of the Duvalier dictatorship when Jean-Claude Duvalier fled Haiti to exile at 4 o'clock in the morning. And that day, I remember, the crowds came out waving flags, ecstatic at the thought that, well, this is the first path to democracy. So it was very important. But that's not what's happened in the last 40 years. And today, there should have been a new president inaugurated. And that was what was supposed to be the role of the TCP, the Transitional Presidential Council. That council was let me backtrack, after the assassination of Jovenel Moïse. There was musical chairs to name a prime minister. And eventually Ariel Henry was named then. He was pushed out. And in effort to have some form of transition, the U.S., CARICOM, and various sectors of the Haitian society finally put together this Transitional Council of 9 members, 2 of whom can't vote, to see Haiti through to a path of new elections, security, which is paramount, and some stability. They've been in office for 22 months. They were not able to do that, but their mandate ended today. So there was huge anticipation about what or whom was going to replace this Transitional Council. And today at a ceremony at 10 o'clock in the morning in Port-au-Prince, it was a ceremony that was held to bid goodbye to the council itself. Everyone was anticipating about 3 or 4 scenarios that would sort of sustain, be caretakers or lead Haiti again towards democracy. And I think a lot of people were surprised when they said the prime minister of Alix Didier Fils-Aimé was the one who was going to take over the reins of power, and no one else. And so he's now been named in an official, unofficial role to guide Haiti towards elections and to bring security to a country that's devastated by the gangs and the ongoing the scale of the humanitarian
Well,
chaos.
Let's go on. I want to talk about that in a minute, because you've mentioned some really kind of revealing points about where we are now. It's a complex web, but ultimately it comes down to, as you say, this nine men personnel board, and you have the Prime Minister who remains in place right now. And the talk that around what was going on around him is basically they wanted to kind of inwardly launch a coup to oust him in favour of somebody else, or three other people that appeared to want the job. Tell me about what your sense has been of the atmosphere from your contacts. What have you been hearing as to be what's actually been going on, and why they haven't got to the point of announcing a president?
Well, they weren't able to hold elections, and they didn't even get to that point. That's the Transitional Council. The internecine political rivalries are something that are intrinsic to Haiti politics, Haitian politics, very difficult. In fact, the prime minister who will take the reins today was originally ousted last January. And so there was a race, and there were several members that were yes, you're right. As of last night, I was being told that there would be sort of a two-headed commission that would have a general council with a couple members of the old council and a new prime minister who would not be Didier Fils-Aimé. This was as of last night. So, wow. But what changed the gears, honestly, is that Marco Rubio placed a phone call to the members of the council about 10 days ago, and he said, you guys, you have to stay put. We're not having any changes until February 7th, when there will be a new prime minister. The U.S. basically said, okay, this is what we need you to do. Don't make too many waves. And it's interesting because part of Haiti's instability has been an entrenched opposition to foreign interference. As we know, the United States invaded Haiti and stayed for several decades. And Haitians have been resisting. That's very important. They've been saying, no, we do not want foreign interference. That has been sort of a bit of a has had an effect of strangulating the political process. Because I would say that given the fact that gangs control 85% to 90% of the capital and almost all parts of Haiti, the degree of violence and instability is beyond manageable. It has to change. And while Haitians are trying, they're proud of their country, the Haitian police has tried, it hasn't happened. And that's what shifted gears. Fils-Aimé was very much favored by the U.S. Embassy and by the Trump administration. So they got a phone call and they said, this is what we're doing. We're not going this other route of naming new groups, new people, and a new prime minister.
So essentially, at the moment, Prime Minister Fils-Aimé, to try to understand who's behind him, he's going this alone with US support, and there's effectively the mandate is finished of the Transitional Council right now. So he's kind of just in a building somewhere in Port-au-Prince with security around him, but representing himself as the Prime Minister. Correct. Wow.
Not unusual. And not unusual in Haitian politics. He did say, he had a speech of about 2 minutes at the ceremony this morning. He said he was going to have a council of ministers, What's not clear, are ministers staying? Are they being switched out? Fils-Aimé is more of a kind of technocrat. He was a member of the Chamber of Commerce of Haiti. He was on one of the bank's boards. He's very much technology-oriented, which is important for Haiti. But as there are quite a lot of differences among political groups that have been around forever. I mean, you have the Lavalas, who are represented, and the opposition to Lavalas. So there is still a very tense situation on the ground because not everybody's going to back Fils-Aimé. As far as the population, this morning is quiet, and that's what I told people I was speaking with, but it's not clear. They're going to go along as long. And something else I wanted to mention, the presidency is tremendously symbolic for Haitians. And I remember after Jovenel Moïse's assassination, people were devastated. I mean, everywhere. It reminded me of Kennedy's assassination. People lined the roads of the railroad, the train that was going to go back, bringing his body. And people were absolutely paralyzed because the symbolism, I have my president, he's my president, is enormous. They take great pride, whomever it is. So now, since July 2021, there really hasn't been a president. And eventually, hopefully, a Fils-Aimé is now taxed with the job of having elections, and they've said as early as August or September of this year.
An interesting point about
that's where things stand, very difficult. Yeah.
When we listen to aid organisations, the situation on the ground doesn't get any better in terms of reports. I mentioned carrying out rape, sexual violence against women with apparent immunity, violence, kidnapping, torture. There was this Kenyan-led force that was brought in to help the police force. The police force were diminishing in number. I think thousands disappeared, but now there seems to be a recruitment drive going on, about 4,000 new jobs being opened up, it seems. And yet this Kenyan-led force now replaced by a UN-authorised gang suppression force. Talk us through whether that's making any difference, this new gang suppression force coming in.
Well, we'll have to see. It hasn't come in. What's on the ground?
It's been announced, but it's not operating. Is that right?
No, not yet. That's correct. They've said that 5,500 troops would come and basically become the gang eradication force, joining the Kenyans that number about 1,400 on the ground, but haven't been able to make a lot of progress for many reasons. That force, now I just want to remind you that for the last 4 years, there's been debate at the UN about sending a force in to maintain security, to have elections. It's the catch-22 that goes on. But there's been so much argument about it that it hasn't come together all that efficiently yet. And this new force to suppress the gangs was just recently formed by the UN. And that's in hopes that people will put money into it, because what stalls this entire process, and there's been numerous UN missions in Haiti, was that it was either going to be Haiti-led or, well, kind of complicated. But nobody wanted the UN to come in anymore. They had had a bad experience after the UN was in Haiti, after Aristide was sent into exile again in 2004, and the UN troops left in 2017. There was a cholera epidemic that they created. So I'm sort of getting off the subject, but it's to come back to the issue that Haitians really didn't want a UN peacekeeping force, but there was nothing. It's just too overwhelming. Something had to be done, but nobody wanted to pay for maintaining troops on the ground. So the first ones were the Kenyans who volunteered. I don't have the exact amount, but they were paid.
Yeah.
And they were paid. And this latest effort just hasn't gotten off the ground yet. And as far as I know, it takes at least 6 months to form together this kind of peacekeeping mission.
I mentioned we talked about the Prime Minister, and I think for the last couple of years, if there's a name that's kind of become infamous associated with Haiti, it's Jimmy Chirizier, aka Barbecue, the notorious gang leader. And now you've talked about elections being likely, but that being the vision, maybe August. But I'm just interested in how that operates in a lawless, semi-lawless society across the country, particularly in the capital, whether we're going to see criminal gangs try to infiltrate that system to legitimise the power with a popular vote, even if through coercion. That's clearly must be a risk.
Well, it's a huge risk. I interviewed Barbecue, in August 2021, really. So I got to know him, and he is the most powerful of the gang leaders because he was a police chief, a policeman for 14 years. But the problem with the gangs is that much earlier on, back in the 2000s, they were ideological. I would not call the gangs today ideological at all. It's money and territory. Everyone will tell you that. However, Barbecue himself has said that Jimmy Chirizier, his name, it's Barbecue is his nickname, does speak. He's very fine-tuned to media, to publicity, and he has repeatedly said that he's after the oligarchs of Haiti, the rich elite, and that's who he's defending. So that has been picked up, but it is a very awkward game, the issue of what to do with the gangs. A lot of people don't want negotiation. That was passed around for a while. Gangs want amnesty. But to control them, and by this I'm saying is that there is no real agenda, political agenda with the gangs, control. It really is a sort of turf war among themselves. Well, that leads very powerful because
that leads to the kind of the following question, Ingrid, which is, if you and I are discussing Jimmy Chirizier Barbecue, the nickname apparently to the extent it was said that what he would do in terms of burning those of his opponents, which he's denied. He said it was a nickname when he got in the police force. But if you're sitting within intelligence agencies in the US...
it was because his mother's... Sorry.
No, tell
me.
Gavin, no, it was he's been called Barbecue because...
Because his mother had a little stand and she sold barbecue chicken down the street, and there were too many Jimmys on his street. That's his version. Right.
Now, if you're within, if you're the Haitian Prime Minister, if you're within the security forces internationally or the US government, and you're looking at actually how to move Jimmy on, Barbecue on elsewhere, dislodge him to try to get through to the gangs, you're quite well placed to answer this question, and you probably give me extent of some of it. What would dislodge him? What does he want? Is it purely about money? How could you get rid of him?
Well, there was a time way back where there was a disarmament committee to deal with the gangs. And it was a good effort. It was run by a Haitian man I met, part of the government, who wanted to reintegrate the gangs. And I think it would have worked at the time, but I think the gangs have gotten out of control. A guy like Barbecue was already speaking to the disarmament committee, and this was back in June of 2021. It's for the prime minister, the sitting prime minister now. What does he do about the gangs? Well, what has happened is that there are outside private companies. Eric Prince is there, and he signed, and it was this prime minister. There was a lot of controversy over it. There were a lot of rumors. Is it true? Is it not? Who would believe Eric Prince would surface in Port-au-Prince? He's not well liked in the U.S. because of, massacres. But it was rumored, bandied around, that he would get a fairly sizable contract to take care of the gangs because the police is outgunned. It can't do it. They seriously need help. And the Canadians and the U.S. have tried to send them equipment, but they're severely undermined. And the gangs are extremely well armed. They have acquired very fancy equipment. But the sense is that they have to be eliminated. They just can't stay because they have wreaked havoc. They have dislodged 1 million people who are living in any empty building in the capital. Rape has been always used as a tool of repression. I remember back it was in the 90s, 92, I believe. I mean, rape was being used. Again, women have had a very hard time. In fact, rape didn't become a crime until 2007. But if you put together the intensity of the violence, I mean, I know people, they're friends of mine, they don't know if they can cross a street because it would have a barricade run by gangs or sub-gangs, or even young kids that have been recruited by the gangs. And it's at, the guns at your head. Plus, they demand a huge toll. You can't circulate, whether in Port-au-Prince or to the outside, the north or the west or the south, because they're controlled by gangs. So commerce, transportation, distribution of gas, but primarily for the population every day is that, can the kids go to school at 6 o'clock in the morning without possibly being intercepted by a group of gangs and possibly killed?
Yeah.
So it's really hard to get to work. It's hard to do your daily activities. Teachers sleep at the schoolhouses because they can't go home. And they're worried about the kids. So it's a very, unfortunately, intractable situation.
And it's a population, what,
And
12,
a lot of people are,
12 million
sorry,
people?
Gavin, I
No,
interrupted
we're in
you.
a population, Ingrid, of 12 million people, and you're describing kind of the micro, which on the macro level is huge, isn't it? The ramifications. And I know we don't have a crystal ball. From your experience, and I ask you because depth and insight matters here, what's your sense of where this is heading in the short term? Take us towards August, what you see happening. Do you think elections will go ahead?
I'll be honest, and I'll tell you what many people tell me. We don't know what the solution is. Haitians don't know what the solution is. They can't come together to agree on a kind of process. We'll see if they can get it, if they can work with the prime minister, who is now made the official not really official prime minister, the caretaker of the government. It is so colossal. It is so overwhelming. Every time I go to Haiti, I say to myself, it's a beautiful island. That's why it was called the Pearl of the Antilles. Then you had, beautiful buildings, and it's a rich island. It has resources. The mangoes fall on your head. But what I see now is a graveyard. Get out of the airport. The destruction of the capital caused by the earthquake, but they got a lot of money to start rebuilding, has not been rebuilt. There's 2 generations that have been growing up in very difficult conditions, very poor. And I'll tell you that the poverty, I've been going to Haiti. I was there in 1986 when Duvalier left for exile. And today, it's worse.
Wow.
It's tragic. So I'm not intimating, but that's making, and the sad about thing is that there's some people who are starting to pine a little bit for the Duvalier days. The repression under Duvalier was unbelievable, and it was barbaric. And even Andrew Jackson flew down to Haiti to find out what happened to 30,000 people that had disappeared. I mean, the city may have looked very nice, but underneath it, it was just a machine of torture, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there was a brain drain. That's the other side. I could tell you so much, but very many people left. So I think that Haiti is suffering from the kind of solid leaders that existed at a time that fled the country. A lot of the intelligentsia moved, you know, to Brooklyn, etc. And there's also, I mean, you want to stick your neck out and risk getting gunned down by a gang member? Yeah. That's the question. And that's why, to answer your question, I honestly hope that there's some cohesion this time around. But it's very difficult.
Yeah. Well,
so
Ingrid,
I can't say yes.
Look, your frankness, you know, let's face it, pragmatism and clear your care hasn't gone away for Haiti. And thank you so much for talking to us tonight. We will talk to you again about this in future. Ingrid Arnesen, winner, I should say, of the Edward Murrow Award for coverage of Haiti, of the Alfred Dupont Award for coverage of Haiti, of the Peabody Award for coverage of terrorism as well. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, Ingrid.
Lovely speaking with you, Gavin.